As I said, like it's when you're playing, like everyone's going to compensate in different ways with the different strengths that they have.
Yeah.
But as I said, like when you're slapping the ball, like I'll slap the ball different to Henry, will slap the ball different. We all have similar enough techniques, but to switch on the actual vital muscles, those movements there, that does switch it on. But as I said, with regard to drag flicking, that's the difference between your release point generating enough power to get through, because you could throw a med ball at a wall all day, but it's nothing that doesn't replicate the movement when you have the band in that low position, and then the release point of your wrists. I think people kind of don't really think about wrist and S&C. They think about all your big movements and whatever, but as you said, for someone like a flicker, the difference between the ability to do that can like the deception from a goalkeeper. If you have a flicker who's really deceptive in their flicks, it doesn't matter how hard they flick it. It's so hard to read. It's like a spin bowling. Yeah. And kind of the dexterity of your wrists as well.
Yeah. I think the other thing with this that I like is like the flexibility requirement as well.
Yeah.
So if you think about these movements, they require huge amounts of flexibility.
Yeah, particularly in the hips and hip flexors.
Yeah.
And back, which probably isn't as, well, from our point of view, it isn't really focused on. Everything's kind of
or
straight.
You do it in
here,
isolation.
here.
So you go, okay, well here's your thoracic rotation movements, here's your adductor stretches, here's your hip mobility stuff.
Exactly, but it should be all in tandem.
Yeah. So that the way I'm proposing you could use these is you go, right, set up a drill that has the same principles as what you're trying to achieve here. Mm-hmm. Are you stiff in your back to be able to find this position? Yes, I am. Okay, well then go lay down on the mat, do come back, and use that range in this position with tension, with developing strength and force through that right position. Then go into your skill, come back through, and you just cycle around.
It's exactly. I think for any of the flickers that are going into it, if you spend 5 minutes on that, suddenly flicking a little ball feel like a piss.
Yep.
It's like flicking with a weighted ball, but a weighted ball is unnatural.
Yep.
Because the ball doesn't roll off your stick as it normally would. Or using a weighted stick, also still not the stick that you use in a match. Whilst that is the exact movement that you use, but when you go into a drill, you're using exactly what you use in a match.
Yep. But also, I don't think you can't do anything more specific than just the skill that you're doing.
Yeah.
Right. So if you try and mimic that perfectly, like we were talking about the grips and stuff, and like having exactly the right grip, you're gonna do a bad job of trying to replicate the skill that you can just do anyway.
Yeah.
So you're trying to drag the principles
that
underpin how you develop force through that movement, magnify them, and then do the specific.
Yeah, as you said, with regard to the only thing that with hockey specific movements differing from a cricket movement is that your hands, as in the slapping and things like that, if there's a longer pole, the release and those types of movements, if it's a longer pole, it's kind of different, as in to enable you to get the strength in the wrists. Technically, the tension kind of needs to be, I don't know, we were saying it earlier on, but it was working with the shorter pole, particularly when kind of reverses and things like that. But hitting wise, spot on.
I guess you're trying to replicate the amount of force through the stick, not necessarily the length of the stick.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like I was saying to you,
and the thing is, all you would need to do is screw I reckon all you need to do is screw that back and that. Put a screw here.
Yeah.
Stops it from falling off.
The issue that I think you'll have with that will be the same as.
If you drill through there, put a screw on.
Yeah. I think the issue we have with that is if you had that. So say that is right. So say that's a
36.5.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's a similar length. As if you start trying to do like this, like we were saying. Okay, you've got a specific wrist position and a length of stick, but the tension through that lever arm with that tension creates a huge amount of stress through your wrist and nothing through your torso.
Got you.
Do you know what I mean?
100%.
So
that makes sense.
Okay, so yes, it's specific in terms of length and grip,
But it doesn't. Yeah, but you would exactly the strain on your
Yeah,
wrist.
if you even come to like there, so bear in mind how far you were getting out.
Yeah.
If I come to here, okay, well that's as much wrist strength as I've got.
Yeah.
And my torso's doing very little.
Yeah.
Whereas what we actually want to do is load the hips and torso. Almost, I think some of those flicking motions with the stick were very good.
Yeah.
Because that's in that sense that's the
release point.
That's like the point of fatigue for
for
that movement is that.
Yeah.
But some of these hitting movements is literally just the power of the body and the rotation that to let the hands just release.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a small amount of effort on the wrist.
Yeah.
Because it's literally just because the implement is pretty light and the ball you're hitting is so light that there's not actually that much force through the wrist. All the force is generated from the body. So you want to. The idea with this is the principle of this is, okay, boom. Like, can I get as much tension as I can by coming this way to load the body up, to train your body to create that whip and just release the hands. Similar in tennis. Arms in tennis want to be really loose. So with tennis we were doing stuff where you keep your arms completely straight, so you like this, to sort of replicate the idea. The arms aren't doing any work. You're not bench pressing the stick.
Yeah.
It's just all body, because in tennis your arms want to be like
Nice
pieces of
and
string, and you literally just like whipping like a lasso,
Yeah.
like a whip. And if your arms are stiff, then you're creating no racket head speed.
Yeah.
There's no like crack of the whip. So it's that. Okay, so we need to use a very weird looking grip, which would be this, to be able to create loads of tension there.
Yeah.
So now I've got like open stance forehand,
Yeah. Yeah.
closed stance forehand.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whereas if I tried to mimic it with, okay, forehand in tennis.
Oh, you just dust.
Okay, how far am I getting out before that disappears? And it's just all in my wrist.
Yeah. That's so true.
So you're trying to use either this, or maybe we cut one right off. I think you're right, because we could
Just for have multiple sizes. Though.
Whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Different sizes for different things.
Yeah.
Decent.
Nice man. That's good. I like this idea. I think I might buy myself. I've got a band. I might buy 2 bands, and then just for warm-ups to replicate those movements.
Yeah.
It's pretty sharp.
I've done loads of stuff with these bands. Like,
Well, as I said, like it takes a few inquisitive minds and kind of changing it up. Everyone knows the kind of standard stuff, but when it comes to real specific movements,
yeah, you gotta.
makes a difference, particularly at the level that we're involved in.
Yeah, you're trying to. There's also stuff I've done with this, like where you. I don't know. You just have to play, and then you go, you find something.
Yeah.
You know, it's interesting how you just you play around with a few different implements. So yeah, if we cut that right down, then you've got something where you can create probably more wrist width. So that would be good for sports like cricket.
Yeah. Tennis, squash.
Squash.
Yeah.
Squash. Yeah. Mate, thanks for that.
Oh, mate.
Belter.
Smash a beer.
Go have some beers.